everybody, Pat Huntoon here with Technique Junkies, and today we're going to be making that colorful card you saw at the beginning of this tutorial, making our own collages with some different stamps. So today we're going to be using Catherine Pooler ink Party Collection Carnival along with Midnight ink. I love Catherine Pooler's Midnight ink. It's so beautiful. It's so color intense. It's just gorgeous. We are also using several Technique Junkies stamps. We're going to be using Distressed Paint S917. We're going to be using Field Flowers, and this is pretty much our focal image, SD1176. For our sentiment, we're going to be using SS149, Your Vintage, and we're using the Just a Note from that collection. And we're going to be using Writer's Block. So this is going to be in the background of our collage. Normally when I'm working, I just work on my glass mat, but because I am working on a work surface and I'm going to be using a lot of ink, from a filming standpoint, it's just easier to use a white background. So I'm just using a piece of 80-pound Nina Solar White Classic Crest cardstock as my base, and I got a little purple on there. It's all right, we're gonna be adding a lot of color. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this writer's block, and I'm going to be using suede shoes on the writer's block to put that in the background of this. So let me stamp that and come right back. So I've stamped that in blue in the suede shoes, as you can see. And the next thing I'm going to use is this SD917 Distress Paint. I'm going to be putting this over this section, and I'm going to be using Catherine Pooler black ink. But let me show you what I'm going to do, because I do this a little bit differently than you might be used to. So here's my Distress Paint and my Catherine Pooler ink. You notice I do not have this on a block. I'm using this free-handed here. So I'm just really inking this top portion here. This top portion of the actual. So I'm just inking the top portion of the Distress Paint. And then I'm taking this and I'm going to stamp this in this upper third here. And I just touch it. Okay, so, and then what having it freeform allows me to do is to add a little bit more here and there without re-inking. And I'm leaving the majority of this area, as you can see, I left pretty clear because I want to stamp the field flowers there. And although because we're going to emboss them, they will show through. I just want to make sure that that area is fairly clean because it makes it easier for me. So let me get this just heat set with some heat, and we'll move on. Now neither of these inks that I used are pigment ink. The Midnight is an archival ink. It does dry very quickly. However, I'm going to be putting dye inks over the top of this, so I want to make sure that it's fully dry. And the suede shoes is just a plain dye, not plain, but it's a dye ink. So I want to make sure that that's nice and dry also. So the next thing I'm going to use is the SD176 Field Flowers. And with that one, I'm actually using it on a block because I would like to work a little quicker. So I'm just going to be using Distress Embossing ink. You can use whatever embossing ink or white, because we're going to be white embossing this. And I'm just going to put one here, making sure that's on there nicely. Now, normally I would hit this with an embossing bag or an anti-static bag. It unfortunately is packed with some of the stuff from a trade show right now, so I didn't have the opportunity to go get it before I started. So just be aware of that. I know some of you are probably yelling, use your anti-static bag. All right. So now I have that on there twice, and I'm going to use white embossing powder to heat emboss this, and I'll speed it up so you don't have to watch it in real time. And that white embossing powder has it's a full-bodied embossing powder. There's no opal in this. It's pure white. So because of that, it will cover up everything that's behind it. So let's get that embossed real quick. Okay, so right now that looks like a whole lot of nothing, doesn't it? So let's add some color to this. So I'm actually starting with the All That Jazz, which is this color. And I'm going to be using one of my brushes for that. So I'm going to ink that up, and I'm starting off the edge of the cardstock, and I'm just inking that in. The white embossing is going to resist these inks because they're dye inks. They look a little blue right now, but they will be resisted in a minute because I'm going to wipe it all off once I get all the ink on there. It's going to be beautiful. So that is that color. That's all I need for that. Next, I'm going to be using the Mardi Gras from the Carnival inks, and add a little of my brush, and I'm just blending along that edge. You notice I always start off the edge of the cardstock if I can. So I'm just putting that kind of in the middle. I'm going to put a little bit along here because this, believe it or not, will mainly be purple. And then the final color I'll be using today is the Grape Crush. Okay, so we're using Grape Crush next. And this is a great way to use what you have or to use new stamps and a different way to create your own collages. And it's so fast and easy. So this purple, and I really like purple, so I'm just going to go along the edge here just to add a little bit more purple. Like I told you, it was mainly a purple colored piece. So that's that. And finally, I'm going to take a paper towel and just gently go over that embossing area and just get off the dye inks on that. So there is our background. Isn't that beautiful? You have some depth here. We have depth of field because we have the writer's block behind and then the distress paint on top and the field flowers on top of that. So all this really needs is a sentiment. So what we're going to be using is the Just a Note from the SS149 Your Vintage set. So let me stamp that and come right back. Okay, so there is the components of the card as I'm going to put it together. I'll speed this up. I just want to show you, look at how the Midnight ink, look at how beautifully. I put this through my Misty, but I only hit it once. Look at how fully that colors this cardstock. I'm just saying the Midnight ink is pretty awesome. So I'm going to speed this up while I put it together. Enjoy the music. So that, my friends, is the Just a Note card. It's so easy to make, and it has some beautiful depth of field, just so you can see. It's really, really quite a beautiful card. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make your own collage out of several different stamps. If you did, please give me a thumbs up on YouTube and consider subscribing to the Technique Junkies channel. Thank you for watching today. See you next time.